Cape Cod is an inspiration for innovation. eSTEAMERS will introduce you to the often overlooked entrepreneurs who are building Cape Cod's future with STEAM. Join us on the journey as we discover the makers, the innovators, educators, and artists who are creating the new economy on the sandbar.
Welcome to eSTEAMERS. I'm your host today, Paula Hersey, and we're talking innovation in education. With me is Dean Cody from Cape Cod Community College. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you, Paula. Glad to be here.
And you're dean of everything over there.
Well, almost everything.
So it's science, it's technology, it's, I guess, engineering now, it's math, it's business.
Business and non-credit options as well.
And non-credit options as well.
Oh, and aviation.
And aviation.
We have to mention aviation.
Exactly, the brand new program we'll talk about in a little bit. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you kind of landed at 4Cs as the dean.
It's actually kind of an interesting story because I spent most of my career in the chemical industry. I managed global research development engineering programs for 2 major chemical companies. Left the corporate world, did a little consulting. I was one of those people who came to the Cape on vacation. My daughter and I came for about 17 years in a row. Same town, loved this place. Thought it'd be a great place to live. Moved over here doing a little consulting and saw they needed someone to teach a chemistry course. Taught a course, talked about another course. There was a need for an interim dean. I put my hand up and said I'd be happy to help out, and here I am 5 years later, totally immersed in something that is a lot more than I expected, but a lot of fun at the same time.
Excellent. So innovation in education, you know, we've taught the, writing, arithmetic, and the 4 R's there, mathematics, the same way, the same subjects over and over and over again, but the world economy is changing at such a rapid pace. How does innovation in education keep up with that? I know that being a state entity as a community college, you can't turn on a dime. How do you guys manage things like that?
It's hard. It's very difficult, actually. And most people, when you think about innovation in education, they focus on technology. And if you look at a lot of the literature, innovation is considered computers in the classroom. That's really not what it's about. It's about how someone teaches. So what we try to do is focus on pedagogy, how an instructor actually works with their class. We move from lectures, which we all went through those 3-hour lectures, which we're all falling asleep in, to actually inquiry-based curriculum, hands-on work, teamwork in the classroom, trying to get students more involved early on. A lot of the work is done outside the classroom on the part of the student, but you continue your problem solving, your teamwork, and it kind of integrates the whole program together. It is difficult though. And a lot of it has to do with professional development of faculty, and that's really one of our key focuses, not only at the college, but what we're doing to the STEM network here in the region.
Yeah, the regional STEM network, we'll touch briefly on that because I do want to have Jill on the show as well. But the regional STEM network is actually bringing together all of the schools here on Cape Cod along with Cape Cod Community College to really share ideas and success stories.
Yes. It started actually about 3 years ago. It was an idea that I had pitched to the superintendents out here, and it was about building a regional STEM education strategy. There were 2 pieces of that. One was to make sure that the students here were aware of what STEM was and what opportunities were career-wise, but also it was really about helping teachers do a better job of teaching science, technology, engineering, and math, and trying to integrate some of the more current concepts into their classrooms. It was also about linking the school districts to the college and having college students in the schools, college faculty with the elementary and secondary faculty, build those relationships, and look at each other as a resource. I think it's done very well over the past 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
So some of that innovation, just right off the top of my head, is some students in high school are actually taking engineering courses at 4Cs.
Yes, they are. Actually, they're taking a lot of courses. We have a pretty active dual enrollment program. But one of the nice things is one of our engineering design programs, which is done in a synchronous fashion where the courses actually I'll use a non-technical term. It's beamed from the classroom at 4Cs into a high school classroom. We have a high school faculty member facilitating the discussion at the high school, but the students in the high school can actually see the college professor in the college class. So they see exactly what's going on. They have the same course, the same instruction, the same software, and there's an interaction. They can see, the students can see the instructor in the class in the high school can see the college class, and they can interact back and forth. So it's working very well. We're doing it again this fall and next spring, Design 1 in the fall, Design 2 in the spring, and one of the nice things about it is we're working on SolidWorks as the software base.
Oh, yeah.
And SolidWorks is used by most of the engineering manufacturing companies out here in the Cape. So once the student completes Design 2, they're eligible to test for a certificate, and if they chose to, they could use that certificate for an employment.
Excellent.
So it's a great opportunity for them. And it's also a way to get college credit and, find yourself walking into an engineering program.
That's great. I know that you had an advisory board for several years. In the past couple of years, I'd gone to a couple of advisory meetings of what the community here on the Cape needed. And the programs at Cape Cod Community College have changed dramatically in the last 5 years, really. Yeah. And it seems to be more STEM-based in some fashion. But where does that kind of public-private partnership kind of spark ideas with you? I know, the aviation was one of them, but what other ones are out there that were sparked by people in the community saying, geez, we really would hope that you guys would have a certificate program or have a degree program in these types of industries?
Well, our engineering program is a very good example of that. The engineering program came out of actually an article that we saw that was in the Cape Cod Times several years ago. It talked about WHOI providing grant money for autonomous undersea vehicles. So from that perspective, there was really no program anywhere locally or anywhere within the region that would allow students to have the skills that the area needed. So what I did at that point is meet with people like Hydroid, Teledyne Benthos, McLean, and others to talk about what their needs were. And with those partners, we built an engineering program. And we did it in 2 steps. First was the academic piece, and we built articulation agreements to WPI, and we're working on ones with UMass Dartmouth and UMass Lowell. But then again, it was also, what do they need for employees? What's the skills they need? And so we built a series of certificates aimed at the advanced manufacturing industry. So it's been collaborative, and we've done a lot of those things in that manner. One of the things that we're really trying to do in the STEM programming is make sure that everything that we do transfers to a 4-year institution. So, and one of the things we've done in the past year, is be effective in the fall, is we build concentration pathways in all STEM areas. Okay. So if you take a course in that pathway at 4Cs, it will transfer to any state school and to most private schools. If you come in here and you take the whole program as it's laid out, you'll move into a 4-year institution as a junior, and that's part of the guarantee that we're offering.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So we're looking, really focusing on student success, how students can transfer, how they can complete, but also how they're ready to walk into the job world. Because we know a lot of our students out here really want the job. And so we're really trying to make sure that they have the skills that are necessary. And part of that is not just the technical skills, it's the soft skills. It's the ability to be a part of a team and to communicate with others and to make sure that you understand what they're doing. And the other part of that, and a lot of it comes from my background, is that I want these students, when they come out here, to understand a little bit about what business is about. So when I talk to students who are in STEM or those who are just in business, I'll tell those who are in STEM, take some business courses. Those who are in business, take some science courses. Understand what's out there, because those skill sets are transferable pretty much anywhere you go. Right.
And this actually comes back to the displaced workers as well.
Yes, it does.
So, we see a lot of downsizing, and people are like, well, there's no jobs on Cape Cod, but there are jobs on Cape Cod. They're just different skill sets, and some of these skill sets can be rapidly deployed with certificate programs.
Absolutely. I was actually, when I got here and started looking and talking to different businesses, I was personally very surprised at the quality and the number of engineering, manufacturing, science, STEM type organizations on the Cape. Right. You have very small businesses that are web designs, that do a little IT work, but then you have global engineering, robotic organizations like Hydroid. Right. first-class organizations, no matter how you measure them. So I was very surprised to find that out. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is to make sure that students at all levels here understand that those opportunities are out there for them. Because most students, as you know, we have a lot of students at the college particularly who they're single parents, right. They have kids of their own, or they take care of their parents, or they have 2 or 3 jobs. And what they know is what their experience is. It's in retail, it's in hospitality, it's in healthcare. And what we're trying to show them is that there are other ways to make a very good living here in the Cape, right. And to stay here. So part of that, I look at that as part of our requirement, part of our charter, so to speak, is not only just to make sure they have the education, but make sure that they understand what's possible. And that goes back to the curriculum we're doing, the programs we're doing, but it also goes back to what we're trying to do in the STEM network.
So let's talk about the new program, because it's absolutely fascinating to me, the aviation certificate, mechanics certificate program. I grew up on the tarmac. My dad was in the Air National Guard. He was the fire chief up at Barnes Airport in Westfield for many, many years. Love planes. I've loved to tinker, kind of like that. I'm very mechanical. And when I first heard of this, I says, mechanics, I mean, aviation, really, are there jobs there? But we don't realize how large the aviation industry is. And then you take a look at just Barnstable Municipal Airport that now is bringing in JetBlue planes, right. And an enormous amount of commercial and residential kind of pieces here. You found a way to create a program and meet a need that is very innovative. Give me some stuff on this, because it just...
You know, it all started with a conversation with Dan Wolf about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And Dan talked about the need, and we did a little work on understanding what the need was, and it was clear that there truly is a need for aviation mechanics, not just in this region, but across the country, across the world. Right. Those who are in the industry, you know, we all hear about pilot shortages, but those that are in the industry understand that the shortage of mechanics is more critical than the shortage of pilots. One of the things that we first heard when we first started to look at the program is JetBlue in Boston had 40 openings for mechanics.
Wow.
40. When you think of all the planes that are flying out there, the need for mechanics is incredible. Most of the programs that are out there are 2-year programs. What we tried to do is look at how we could shorten the time frame, how we could provide the quality education and the job opportunities, and so how we could kind of leverage all that into something different. And what we proposed is a 12-month program. So it's essentially we're cutting the time in half.
Okay.
It's a full-time program. So students are going to school 8 to 4:30 every day, Monday through Friday. It's regulated by the FAA, so everything we do has to be approved by them. So it's a challenge being a federal regulation body, but nonetheless, we have a great working relationship with them. But it's an opportunity for a student to come now, whether they're the place worker, whether someone's looking for a career change, whether it's someone that's coming straight out of high school, to come in, spend 12 months doing this program, and walk away and get a great job. If you're going to go work for a large carrier, you're probably going to start somewhere in the $50,000 range.
Wow.
If you're going to start locally in a regional small carrier, maybe 35 to 40. But the opportunities are everywhere. Right. And one of the nice things about this program is the needs are global, so wherever you want to go, there's going to be a job.
Right. So it interests me because you have multiple disciplines in mechanics. So you have jet propulsion, yep. which would be the JetBlues of the world, and then you have prop engines, which would be the Cape Airs of the world. You teach both of those?
We teach both.
How do you do that? Where's the engines?
Tell the story. They're usually at the front of the plane or on the wings. But
tell the story, because you've got a couple of good stories on getting engines that these students can work on.
Well, we teach to the FAA's curriculum. This is a prescribed curriculum, and we have to talk about turbine engines, diesel engines, radial engines, so everything is included. But putting this together, it's a very costly program. Places that I talked to before we started this, they were talking $1 to $3 million in equipment cost. We spent a lot of time talking to individuals and companies. We had a lot of people speaking on our behalf, to secure engines. Cape Air donated one of their Cessna 402s.
That was great.
It was absolutely it's great. I mean, they've been behind us since day one.
Yep.
They're a great supporter. We've had a number of other people, individuals, give other planes. We have a Piper. We actually have a paper airplane.
A paper
in the
airplane.
sense that the exterior cover is actually paper. It was
wow.
It was at the Plymouth airport. The individual who owned it was not flying it any longer, so we moved it in. So when you think about airplanes, the big jets that we fly are all composites, but
right.
a lot of them are wood. A lot of the older ones are paper and plastic, and so there's a whole mix of things. And the students need to understand all of it, right. because you don't know what it is you're going to have to fix.
Right.
So one of our big additions right now is a V2500 engine that was donated.
Monster.
It's monstrous.
It's monster big.
It's donated from Pratt & Whitney, and
okay.
Dave Bushy, who's the ex-president of Cape Air. He's also been at Delta and JetBlue, and among others. But Dave reached out to people he knew and asked for donations, and they came out and they provided us with that engine. As you said, it is massive. Yeah. It's actually an engine that you'll see on an Airbus 320. So
right.
it is a commercial engine.
And current.
And current. So
right.
students can work on a small radial engine. They can work on a turbine engine. They can work on a diesel engine. They can work on an engine that essentially isn't much bigger than what you'll find on your lawnmower, or they can work on this one, which is completely massive. It weighs about, that engine that we were speaking of earlier weighs about 8,000 pounds, just right. the engine. So you can, from that you can see the size of it. It's quite a program.
What fascinated me was the tool stations. While I was there for your ribbon cutting, we saw somebody virtually paint.
Yes.
Which was hysterical, yep. because they painted the person next to him by accident, but there was no real paint. It was just a virtual paint. Right. And then all the tool stations. Yeah. I mean, everything that you would imagine in airplane mechanic, but just keeping an airplane up and yeah. looking good is included.
We've been very fortunate. We got a Department of Labor TAC grant. We had an NSF grant. We also had a line item from the state to help us secure a facility and equipment. And so we've been very fortunate with being able to provide and get equipment. What we did is really talk to a lot of the carriers and talk about what we need. And our program, particularly if you look at the equipment, and I'll say this, but the FAA who comes in will tell you it also, we are steps above everybody else because we have been able to, with a lot of the support we've had, buy top-of-the-line equipment that you won't find in a lot of places. So the virtual welders and the virtual painters are an example of that. Before you actually get onto a plane,
before you start virtual welding.
Before you start using material, before, well, make sure you don't burn yourself and burn
right,
the building down when
exactly.
you're doing that, you get to actually experience that in a virtual environment. Yeah. We have a lot of digital work. Our electronics program is completely digital. And then in the way the program is set up, you learn the theory, and then you have to apply it to a plane. Right. So we've created an innovative classroom structure. But then
simulator.
Through the simulators, but then we move into an actual work on a plane. So people come in and they're amazed at the amount of equipment that we have and right. the type of equipment we have. We've really taken it from, your wrench and your screwdriver to a true digital age program.
Right. That's kind of what I was expecting, and then I walked in and all the stations that you had, and then the classroom itself, which I thought I had a tour with Alex, and he basically said that the student could see when a pilot does something in the cockpit, yes. that the student could see how that applies to the engine or the piece of plane that they're working on. Right. And having that practical aha moment of, oh, I see when he pulls the rudder stick back or forward, here's what happens, and this is the mechanics that make that happen.
Right. And the whole thing is, if you take a look at innovation concepts, it's exactly what we're doing. Right. In that particular environment that you described, we're looking for the student to make that observation of what he sees. Think about it critically, and then take that thought process into how he solves that problem. Right. And that's really the definition of innovation. It's observation, critical thinking, problem solving. So that's exactly how we have it set up. And I think it's going to be a great program, not just for the college, but for the entire region.
Right. What's in store for the next couple of years? I know that this particular program took years to get off the ground.
It did.
And I know that you and Dr. Cox have worked diligently and tried to, and still have a couple of I's to dot and T's to cross with the FFA, but we think maybe the end of September this program
That's what
will
we're
be
hoping
on.
for. Of course, when you deal with a regulatory body, you don't know, but we've got a great
Right.
relationship. We're meeting again with them tomorrow. I'm really hopeful that that's how it's going to work out. But as where we're going,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of irons in the fire right now, and we're working with people in the community and businesses to find what they need, what they want. We're trying to make sure that whatever we do is relevant, not only for the community, but for students as well. They can transfer or they can get a job. But if we talk about aviation just for a moment, we're probably going to look into avionics.
Okay.
We've had some conversations about possible flight schools. That's a long way down the line
Sure.
if that happens. But then, of course, there's that market out there that everybody's talking about is drones. Where does that fit? We don't know, but there's a possibility that could come in here, whether it's maintenance, whether it's teaching individuals from a software perspective how to develop software for them, how to interpret, how to run them. But there's a lot of doors that we're opening and taking a look at. But we don't do it by ourselves.
Right.
You know, we do spend time with people in the community, and we're really looking at public-private partnerships to make this successful.
That's great. Well, it was wonderful to have you here on the show, Bob. It's been 2 years. I've been trying to get you here, so glad it finally
Thanks,
fit in
Paul.
the schedule.
It's happy to be here. I'm glad I was able to come. Hopefully we can sit down sometime soon and talk about the next steps.
I would love that.
Me too.
I'm Paula Hersey, and this is Innovation in Education.